So I want to believe that verse 41, Matthew chapter 10, verse 41, has been explained thoroughly through the help of the Lord. So we can just let's take verse 41 again. Then we will move to verse 42, which is the last verse in that chapter. He that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water only in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. So Jesus is now saying that if you give a cup of cold water to any of these little ones, are you there? In the name of a disciple, you will not lose your reward. So the question is, which reward? That's the disciples' reward. So the picture you see in the person defines the reward you get from the person, or who you see the person as will determine what you receive from the person or the kind of reward the person gives to you. Now, this is the strange part of this. Do you know that this person can give that reward without knowing? Yes. We can give rewards without knowing. It's just the way you respond to those that believe in who you are. So that's your response is the reward. So we can give the reward without knowing, because sometimes the reward can look very insignificant. Since it's not something very big, it's not like we are saying, go and take that house, go and take that car. So sometimes we may not even feel like we are giving any reward, but the truth is we are actually giving a reward. So looking at verse 41 and verse 42 now, it's looking like we have three rewards: the prophet's reward, the righteous man's reward, and the disciples' reward. So Jesus is now saying in this place that if you give a cup of cold water to any of these little ones, the word little is also very important there. In that verse, there are some words we need to note. Number one is cold. Number two is little. Those two words are key. We'll come to that. Now, he now said, if you give a cup of cold water to these little ones in the name of a disciple, you will not lose your reward. So the reward you will not lose, obviously, is the disciples' reward. Are we together? Please don't forget. You see, this chapter is a very unique chapter, because the more you explain, now this is verse 42, which is the last chapter, but you see, the more you explain the verses, you keep going back to verse 1. We'll keep going back to verse 1. That's the modality of this chapter. If you don't do it that way, you may not really bring the people into full understanding. So if we go back to verse 1 now, and we link it to where we are, it will become clear that, okay, this particular thing that Jesus was saying in this place, he was actually speaking to ministers. Can you see that? He was speaking to ministers. These were the people, if you look at verse 1, these were the people that Jesus had given power to. He had given them power. Are you there? This is like ministers' ordination service. So before they now go out to begin to manifest, he now sat them down. Said, let me teach you. And I need to do some exposition. So it was that exposition that started from verse 1, immediately after the power was given to them, that still continued to verse 42 now. Are we together? That's it. So Jesus was not saying all this to unbelievers. He was speaking to the people he had given power. So that means if Jesus was speaking to ministers, that means this is like a ministers' conference, and Jesus was speaking to them. So that means a minister must understand that, there is the minister's reward. And you should not think he's the only one that has a reward to give. You should also not forget that there is the righteous man's reward, which is common to both the minister and the one that probably do not see himself as a minister. And that's not all. The minister should also understand that there is the disciples' reward, which will come when you give a cup of cold water. I'm going to explain what that cup of cold water is. We must see, because if you don't give that cup of cold water, although there is a disciples' reward, but you won't get it. What is the disciples' reward? The disciples' reward is the commitment from the people that we are to lead. But we are not going to get that commitment if we don't give them a cup of cold water. Some people give a cup of water, but because the water is not cold, they could not get the best out of their people. So, what is the significance of cold there? You know, there are some level of. Now, have you ever been tested before? Have you ever been tested under a very hot sun? Now, just imagine you take a cup of water and you later just imagine taking a cup of water or a cup of cold water. Which one do you think will really quench your thirst under a very hot sun? It's a cup of cold water. If you take a cup of water, although you still you will feel like, oh, you are filled, but there's this kind of satisfaction you won't get because the water is not cold and the weather is very hot. So if you give a cup of cold water and you give a cup of water, it's not the same thing. So a cup of water is likened to that kind of support you do that does not really solve the issue, or at least it makes it a bit manageable, but not really didn't solve the issue. That one is a cup of water. Are you there? And then you are not giving a cup of water because you don't have a cup of cold water. You are giving a cup of water because you feel the person does not deserve more than that. You know, it's a different thing if you are giving a cup of water because that's all you have. But in this context now, some ministers will prefer to give a cup of water because they feel the person does not deserve more than that. Either because it is more easy to give a cup of water than to give a cup of cold water, because a cup of cold water is going to require more commitment from you as a leader. So most times, most leaders prefer to give a cup of water. That one that won't stress them much. How can I be teaching for every day? Are they giving me money? Don't just give them a cup of water so they teach you maybe 2 times a week. I'm not saying that every minister must be teaching every day, but I'm just using that as an example. So because he wants to give you a cup of water, I say, no, I can't. What am I getting from it? I'll just be teaching maybe 2 times a week. That's okay. Everybody will be fine. That's a cup of water. But when you want to give a cup of cold water, you go to the extra mile. Your body will feel it. Your being, your spiritual and body will know you are immersed into something. That's a cup of cold water. So most ministers, they prefer to give a cup of water because they don't want to go extra mile. But this is the problem. Jesus said something very powerful. He said, if you give a cup of cold water to any of these little ones, you will receive you will not lose your reward. And that reward is the disciples' reward. Remember, Jesus added the word little ones. Now, most people give a cup of water because of that word little. Yeah, so you feel they are just there's nothing much to get from these people. You know, I remember another was speaking to me. He said, man of God, well done, God bless you. You know, your people are young people. Are you there? The summary of what he was saying is that these people that I'm even laboring are young people. What would they even give me like this? Well, God will just help me. You know, that kind of discussion, that kind of talk. It is well. You are laboring for God. These people now, they are young people. It's not like any of them can come and give you car now or house. Well, God will just help you. Can you say that? So there's this view of, okay, these are the little ones. At least if you want to give them something, don't try to give them a cup of cold water. Just give them a cup of water. Don't go extra mile because there's nothing much you get from them. Either. So when we see the little ones, most of the times, we are tempted to give them a cup of water, even when we can give them a cup of cold water. But we don't want to stretch So let me just give them a cup of water. That one is more easy. But Jesus is saying that if you see those little ones, the little ones there are the people that they seem not to, it looks like they can't do much. It looks like they don't have much to give to you. So it looks like you are the one that will be doing virtually everything. You teach them the word, you still feed them, still give them money. Those are the little ones. So it's looking like you are just serving them, they are not serving you. Or better still, you are serving them more than they are even doing to you. Those are the little ones. So Jesus is now saying that those little ones, if you look away from the fact that they are little and you give them a cup of cold water, eh, even as little as they look, they have a reward, which is the disciples' reward. Meaning that those people that are little, there's a contribution they can bring to what you are doing. Are you there? That will make it big. Are you getting what I'm saying? That's it. Although you are a great man of God, can you go and stay in the media? Can you be causing videos? Can you? There are some things you cannot do. But you need to give a cup of cold water so that the little ones would also give their rewards. So your cup of cold water can be a strong belief in the people. You may not even have money to give them, but they know you believe in them. A cup of cold water can be love. They just know you love them. They can feel love each time they speak to you. That's a cup of cold water. Until ministers must understand that. Meanwhile, it was ministers Jesus was speaking to, because Jesus knew that ministers, they are likely to overlook that. You can't get the disciples' reward if you don't give a cup of cold water. If you give a cup of water, there's a level of response they will give to you. But it can't be like when you give a cup of cold water. Are you there? Imagine you message, you have been messaging a pastor to ask for something, and he's not even responding to it. You will see your message, you will just overlook it. Maybe you want to ask a question on the scripture you don't understand. At least if he will not answer, let him tell you, okay, send this thing to this person to answer. Nothing. We just see your message is not responding, and you want to know God. Maybe because you are young and there's nothing much you can get from you. Well, see, that cup that the person is giving to you, ignoring your messages, is a cup of water. You may still be part of that, but you may not do much because it's not a cold water. Do you get what I'm saying? So ministers must understand that we must always give a cup of cold water. Let's not look at the fact that the people are little. They can't give much. What do they have to support with? So we want to see big people before we bring out our cold water. You understand? We want to see big people before we bring out our cold water. People that can give us a house, people that can give us a car, people that can give us millions and even more than that. People that can, those big people. So when we see them, most times that's when ministers want to bring out to their cold water. But when they see the little ones, they just give them ordinary water. Be wise. Jesus has warned us against these things. Those little ones, let me read that verse again. Now, verse 42, the last verse, it said, and whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water, only in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. That's the disciple's reward. The Lord is helping us in the name of Jesus.